NBA Mailbag coming up on the docket on NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. First, though, got to give a shout-out to today's sponsor, Mint Mobile, for making the show possible. Cell phone plans, changing the game for as little as $15 per month. We'll tell you how you can start saving money today just in a couple of minutes. But first, that link available for you in the comment section and the description of this video. We kick off this mailbag with this question coming in from one of our loyal subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, be like Robert Bruce. Robert with this: hello, my Celtic brother Jack, who is a Celtic fan. Hello, Chase. With the acquisition of Malcolm Brogdon and Gallinari, the Celtics seem to have a deeper bench now. Do you think they need a backup center for the Time Lord? I really don't think they need to put a huge emphasis on that. If you want to bring back Daniel Tice, then just do so. He can be your backup five throughout the regular season. Then when it comes playoff time, you might have to mix and match depending on if you go small or if you go larger against that particular lineup night in, night out. But the Celtics, like you said, Robert, are a deeper team, and I think they're a better team that just finished runner-up in the NBA Finals to the Golden State Warriors. Really good squad. I like the acquisition of Brogdon. It's a steal to get Gallinari on that price tag considering what he was making last year. He gets bought out by San Antonio, goes to Boston for $6.5 million per year for a guy who's a really good three-point shooter on a roster that could use spot-up three-point shooters. So the Celtics, once again, one of the better teams in the NBA. They will be factors in competing for an NBA championship this year. Let's get to this from Chua Lore. Can JaMychal Green provide defense for the Warriors? And why haven't the Warriors signed JaMychal Green? So there first has to be a buyout for Oklahoma City to officially allow JaMychal Green to become a free agent. Once he becomes a free agent, as Sham said last week and as we covered on Warriors Today, the expectation is that JaMychal Green is going to sign with the Golden State Warriors. He's basically your Otto Porter Jr. replacement, a guy who has size, who can knock down the three, who can come in off the bench if you need to start him. He has experience starting throughout his NBA career, although he's better suited to come in off the bench. I'm not going to go as far as to say that JaMychal Green is better than Otto Porter Jr., but he's along that type of stretch of players that is Otto Porter Jr. Boston Braun, not sure I'm sold on Bryant and Jones at the center should the Lakers give Hassan Whiteside a chance. So Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones. Look, the Lakers could do worse than Hassan Whiteside. Here's where it comes to be tricky for Los Angeles. Like, they've already occupied 2 roster spots on Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones, who are probably better suited to be backup centers. And now if you bring in Hassan Whiteside, you probably now have 3 backup centers without a bona fide number 1. And that's a little bit of a problem. And for the Lakers, this isn't a team that's depth. They're that is deep. They don't have a lot of shooting. They don't have a lot of athleticism. Yes, you have LeBron and Anthony Davis, but outside of that, huge questions, including at that 5 spot. Hassan Whiteside is a solid backup center. Last year, he averaged like 8 points per game, 7 rebounds, a block and a half per night. But the problem for LA, you have a logjam of backup centers, and that really isn't ideal for the purple and gold. If you're subscribed to us here at Chat Sports, thank you. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that sub button for the best NBA, NFL, and college football coverage. And if you are subbed to us, make sure you type Real One in the comment section because we love all of our real ones here at Chat Sports. Mr. Clean, who can the Cavs get in return for Collin Sexton? According to all of the most recent reports, the Cavaliers ideally would like to bring back Collin Sexton. And that backup experiment of Darius Garland and Collin Sexton has been somewhat of a small sample size up to this point. I think it can work. I think Sexton's a really good player, a guy who can give you around 20 points per game. Darius Garland coming off his first All-Star season. It was cool to see him get that accolade when the All-Star game was actually in Cleveland. Defensively, some questions about a Sexton-Garland backcourt. How do they mesh together with 2 guys who have similar playing styles? I'm at least willing to experiment with it up until the NBA trade deadline. And if it doesn't work out and Sexton is playing well, it's a really good trade piece. And for the Cavs, you have to imagine they're going to be in the running for a playoff spot, right? So at that point of the NBA trade deadline, if they want to flip Sexton for some other playoff pieces that helps the roster a little bit better, use that to your advantage. As for what they could get either now or then, now not as high. If Sexton shows that he's healthy coming off that knee injury and gives you 20 points per game, but the Cavaliers are struggling a little bit, then I think that trade package would be a lot better, maybe a 3-and-D wing and another player there. D. Wilkes, should the Celtics go after John Collins? I don't think so. Unless you were to trade away Robert Williams, and I think Robert Williams has a lot of value. Like, I like that front court of Al Horford and Robert Williams. I thought it posed a lot of nice little matchup problems against other teams, including the Warriors. They started Kevon Looney, then they went away from that. Steve Kerr did, and they started Otto Porter Jr. because of the size and the length of that starting five for Boston. And if you go after John Collins, you have to give up a lot, and they might give up a lot to trade for Kevin Durant. And then if you keep Robert Williams and have John Collins, yeah, you're super athletic, but I don't know. There's a clashing there of athletic bigs, and I just think that you can get better value out there for more of a position of need. But D. Wilkes, I definitely see where you're coming from because John Collins is a good player. Today's show, as I mentioned off the top, sponsored by Mint Mobile. You may have heard of them before. It's the cell phone company owned by the famous actor Ryan Reynolds, and they're trotting out cell phone plans starting as low as $15 per month. Unlimited talk and text, high-speed data on America's largest 5G network, a mobile hotspot, and, of course, these affordable cell phone plans. And what's cool, you don't have to change your number or get a new physical cell phone if you change carriers from whatever you're on right now, where you're definitely not paying as little as $15 a month, to Mint Mobile. Also, you don't have to go to a store. They have these digital eSIM cards, which will get you started right away, and your service will switch seamlessly between 5G and 4G, whichever is strongest. So I'm going to put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. It's mintmobile.com/chatsports. Get started today on saving some cash for these premium cell phone plans starting as low as $15 per month. The scoop with the scoop right here. The scoop with Coop. Nice. We have producer Coop. I'm looking at him right now. Who's been the most disrespected player throughout the NBA offseason? Is it Sexton or someone else in your opinion? Scoop, you make a great point. The fact that Collin Sexton has no market is a little bit weird. Now, I did talk earlier about the Cavs having interest in bringing him back, but how are no other teams checking in on Sexton, who in year 2 averaged 20 points per game and then in year 3 averaged 24 points per game? The league is always thirsty and looking for guards and wings who can put the ball in the net. And that's what Collin Sexton can do at a really good level. On top of that, he's a really good athlete. Now, do some teams have questions about the knee injury? Maybe a little bit, but the lack of respect for Collin Sexton, the scoop, I'm with you, man. Bringing it. Luke Byrne. Is Luka an MVP favorite? Luke Byrne tuned in from Australia. He has to be. And you know what? Going into last year, Luka Doncic was the favorite at one point to win NBA MVP. How do I know that? Because I looked it up. And I said, okay, Luka, he's going into another year. He's gotten better with every campaign. Is he going to win MVP? Certainly has all the makings of winning one at some point. I think it's only a matter of time before Luka Doncic is an MVP. I'll tell you how you can win it this year. You have the Mavs as a top 3 team in the West after they lost Jalen Brunson. That's how Luka can win his first MVP. And if he does that, my goodness, he already is solidified as one of the game's best players right now. He enters into a different pantheon among players all time. If he wins that MVP, I do believe he'll be one of the favorites. Sly Scotty. Could Jeremy Lamb or Hassan Whiteside revive their careers with the Warriors if the Dubs were to sign them in NBA free agency? So Jeremy Lamb, I'm not sure what type of player he is now and how much he has left. He has not lived up to those expectations outside of 2 years where he really just shot the basketball well and scored it, but wasn't efficient in his NBA career. He's had some decent moments, but last year really struggled from the field, around 30% from 3, and that's what his game should be built on, is knocking down some three-pointers, especially with where the game is nowadays. So I'm not sure about Jeremy Lamb. I think he is the player who he is. As for Hassan Whiteside, the Warriors, no question, could use another backup big. Yes, you have Kevon Looney after you brought him back in NBA free agency. I think the world of James Wiseman. If he can stay healthy, I think he can just be a force on both ends of the floor and give so much to this Warriors team athletically that they haven't had at that 5 spot in a really long time. But they could use another backup big, and Hassan Whiteside was pretty good as a backup last year for Rudy Gobert. I mean, he can give this team 8 points and 7 rebounds and a block and a half per night without having to space the floor. So I would like the latter there, Hassan Whiteside. Appreciate the question, Sly. Some might say the Warriors are off-season winners. They won a championship and they were able to get good value deals and replenish that talent to a certain degree. But who do you think is the biggest NBA off-season winner? Give me a name right now in the comment section. Alec G, if the Lakers are giving up picks to move Russ, is it likely he comes back to OKC? It just doesn't make sense for Oklahoma City at all for Russell Westbrook to come back. They have this young, blossoming, growing, ascending team that has all of these young pieces who they're trying to give minutes to. Why would you curtail that development and that growth by bringing in Russell Westbrook, who isn't the same player that he once was when he was playing for OKC? And I have questions about who he is as a leader. I mean, so many reports about this past year in Los Angeles of him not accepting his role, him lashing out during these film sessions. You want to be able to groom these young players and say to Josh Giddey, Chet Holmgren, this is how you carve out a successful NBA career. This is how you become a perennial playoff team. I'm not sure that Russ is able to offer that to the Thunder. He's a future Hall of Famer, a breathtaking talent. I want no part of him nowadays, though. Blake Jones, Terrence Mann is a name that I like for the Dallas Mavericks. What would they have to give up for him? Terrence Mann is a good player who, in each of his first couple of years, 3 years to be exact, he's gotten better and better and better and has that long wingspan, has that athleticism, a little bit of that spunk in terms of his athleticism to be an impact player in a playoff series on both ends of the floor. I like Terrence Mann a lot. The thing is, what's the price tag going to be? Is it going to cost you Tim Hardaway Jr.? It might. And are you willing to part ways with a player like that to bring in Terrence Mann, who isn't the offensive player who THJ is? But THJ a little bit streaky. Terrence Mann, better all-around player on both ends of the floor. I would be intrigued by that for sure. Before we get out of here on this mailbag, who do you think will win MVP next year? We had that question earlier from Luke Byrne, but who do you think is going to win MVP? Let me know right now. Another question, actually. Sam, how good can the Knicks become with Donovan Mitchell? Well, they have to trade for him first. And if they land Donovan Mitchell, I think they're somewhere around a 47 to 50 win team. Jalen Brunson is a really solid player who I don't expect to be a number one, but with Donovan Mitchell, he doesn't have to be the number one every single night. We'll see what the Knicks have to give up. That's really the big talking point here. What can the Knicks become with D-Mitch? They can become really good. But what if they have to trade away R.J. Barrett and or Quentin Grimes? Those right there, big losses.